Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Okay, at this point we usually go around and say our names. I'm Bob.
Larry.
Mike.
Tigger.
Edmund.
Forrest.
George.
Charles. Cat. Michael.
Howard. Todd. Ahmed. Paul. Raphael. Roy. Jack. Paul. Peter. Jim. David. Clint. Art. Paul. Jim. Steve. Nobu. Art. Jonathan. Jay. Mark. Chris. Peter. Kay. Ray. David. Darren. Hi, everybody.
And I'm Bill.
So Bill Weber is our speaker today. He's been here many times. He's studied at Spirit Rock and has also made several films people can see. You can get them on Amazon.com. And today, the extra research. He's going to speak on dealing with stress in difficult situations.
Good morning, everybody. Go with me on this, please. I woke up this morning and I was overcome with stress. I was just overcome. I've never had what I thought was a mental breakdown, or I don't even know what they call it when you just break down. But this morning I almost felt like I was getting close to it. I just sat down and I just started crying. And it's funny because what I wanted to talk about was dealing with stress in difficult situations. And my clarity around that was the way you deal with it is with this practice. That's the way. It's a huge gift to me in learning how to deal with it. This practice that we all share in some way or another. I mean, we all just sat here for a half an hour in silence, and we all just sort of paid attention to whatever was arising. You know, our thoughts, our plans, our body sensations, our pains, our stress. So, we all just sit and pay attention to it. And to me, that's the way to deal with this stuff. But boy, right now I don't feel like I'm dealing with it very well. And then for me to come here and speak about that, it added this other layer of stress on it that I realized when I was sitting here, a lot of my extra stress this morning was like, fuck, I'm supposed to come and talk about this, and I'm not doing so well. Thank you. The other thing I want to be clear about, I also realize I have a tendency to make things about me, and I look around the world, and my problems aren't so great, I don't live in New Orleans, or Africa, or the Middle East, or, you could go on and on and on. But I don't want this to be about comparison. I want this to be about experience. And my experience of stress this morning was very real, and it was felt, So again, I used this practice. I came back to the practice. And there were times I was just like shaking almost. So I said, okay, sit, feel it. What the hell is it? What's going on? So I just sort of sat with it. And again, there's an aliveness to it. There's the aliveness to it that's our life. That's alive with our joy, with our happiness, with our fear. There's this physical manifestation of it that occurs. And what I was feeling was a real tightness in the chest, like a contraction of the skin, a difficulty in breathing, a heaviness. It's almost a color. There's almost a darkness to it. It has a direction almost. It like pulls down. So it's like, oh, this is what's going on. When I do that, then the mind stuff around it about, oh my God, I have to go speak, all those other things that go on become a bit more manageable and become a bit less overwhelming. It just becomes a sense of experience. So what I'd like to do is to continue for me to experience and to maybe give an outward expression to this sense of experience that I'm going through, and offer that as one way of dealing with stress. And I'd also like to talk a bit about what I sort of plan to talk about, and go back and forth a bit. And I hope it isn't too disjointed. I had a really good piece of advice one time after speaking here one time. I ran into my friend Jack at a cafe, and he said, I've sat through a lot of Dharma talks, and the Dharma talks that really work for me are the ones that really sort of take three main points and sort of stick there. And the ones that sort of, try to hit too many more, I get lost after some point, and everybody else does too. I said, oh yeah, I'll do 3 points. Well, I think I have about 18. So, hang with me. Part of the reason I wanted to talk about stress is this being September 11th. And I'm reminded again, I sat on a New Year's retreat one time, and we were sitting in meditation at midnight, and the teacher rang a bell at midnight, and it was just like, this is New Year's, The moment that we put such special meaning into this moment. Oh, it's another year, blah, blah, blah. When all it is just like, it's no different than this moment, or, the next one, or whatever. But we attach things to it, and we attach meaning to it. And I think for better and for worse. So now we have this date, September 11th, that'll stick with us, I'm sure, for our lives. It's always going to say, this is when the World Trade Center fell down. This is when, America stood up to terrorism. This is when the Homeland Security became empowered. Whatever it is, whatever our connection with this particular date is. But it's also these dates can have a lot of power sometimes, I think, because it's also a great time to reflect. What does September 11th mean to us now? What does the war on terror mean to us? What is our connection to that suffering? Not only was that part of what I was reflecting on and thinking about, talking about, how do we approach, how do we respond, how do we deal with these difficult situations? But, I was thinking about that a few weeks ago, and then Katrina happens. It, blows everything out of the fucking water. Sadness has a real life to it, too. Again, it's a direction. It's really it sinks. It just sinks. I found myself it was like an afternoon, seething in anger over what was going on and our government's response to it. And talk about life of an emotion again. Anger's intoxicating. Anger's just so rich. And it was like fucking Bush and that Cheney walking around down there, and all that stuff. How do we respond? How do we react? How do we carry this stuff? How do, So I'm posing a lot of questions, and I'm not real clear sometimes. But one I do know, I'm coming back again to this one thing. This practice is a huge help for this. It really helps. What do? We pay attention. We feel the aliveness of it. We recognize it. We recognize it when it happens, as it's happening. We become aware of it. When I was in that state of anger for that afternoon, one thing I was also aware of over and over again was the awareness of my anger. It's like, oh, I'm falling to this. I'm going to it again. I'm going to this feels good. This awareness that came around all of this was really helpful for me, because another huge thing I want to talk about is that there's so much of this suffering and grief in the world that what I don't want to do is add to it. There's enough of it. So this anger I felt around our response around Katrina, and the awareness of it gave me a little bit of space and time and reflection where I don't have to go out and yell at somebody or be nasty to somebody or add to it. I encourage you all to practice with me too. Just to be aware of whatever arises as I'm speaking. There could be emotions around the issues I'm talking about. There also, there can be some fears like, oh my God, where is he going? Because I don't know. Whatever. Just practice with this. And on top of this for me was last week, almost exactly a week ago now actually, one of my better friends and my next door neighbor of 10 years died, and died at home. And this man had lung cancer, and the cancer had spread to his brain and the spine. And they told him he had cancer in March. And he found he had brain cancer in middle of July. And, he died the day before Labor Day. And it was tough. It was really tough. I came back to my neighborhood, and a bunch of my neighbors had put black ribbons up on doors. And I saw that, and I just started bawling. This guy was a big teacher for me. He was the most amazing neighbor. He brought the whole neighborhood together in ways that I'd never seen before. Everybody in the neighborhood knew him. Everybody in the neighborhood was his friend. Half the people in the neighborhood I lived in, I know because he introduced me to him. And sometimes I lived, 3 doors down the street from him. He accepted everybody in. Ages. He would hang out with the 80-year-old ladies. He would hang out with the 3-year-old girls. He was just that kind of teacher in a way. A lot of pain around that for me. A lot of pain. How do we deal with this? What's really been helpful for me in the past, again, coming back to it, this practice of awareness, this practice of seeing clearly, this practice of understanding impermanence, of really connecting with all of this is impermanent. Sometimes it happens really fast. My neighbor died, it seemed like in 2 weeks. We lost New Orleans overnight. The World Trade Center came down in 2 hours or something. This impermanence, it can just be so... This is it. This is it. So the more we can connect with this through our practice, through our sitting here, through our understanding of these beautiful teachings of the Buddha, I think the better equipped we are to cope with this. But, it's like, why am I not coping so well right now? But then, where's that judgment that I should be coping well with this, I guess, too? I don't know. Part of what I was thinking about when thinking about these issues to talk about is that who told us that these wouldn't exist in the world? That our neighbors wouldn't die? That natural disasters wouldn't happen? That war and famine and hatred are ugly and do incredibly ugly things? Where did I get this idea that this shouldn't be part of the mix? That this is somehow not right? That somehow this doesn't belong? That somehow I should be able to cope with this all the time? I thank you all. I feel very safe in here. I feel very safe in speaking like this. And that's a gift that you all have given me, and I appreciate that. I somehow sometimes think that, I go for a thought, and I feel my body tighten up again. Just, where's it going? Fear, recognition. One reason that things have been difficult for me is that I haven't been practicing lately. I haven't been sitting. I haven't been taking the time just to pay attention. I've been running. And I've run from one thing to the next. And I realize that it doesn't work unless you do it. It doesn't work unless we take the time to stop and say, okay, what's going on? What's this feel like? Can I look at this directly? Can I not avoid it or stop the struggle with it? I felt so much better just in the half an hour that I was sitting here than I did the whole rest of the morning. Just to be with this body, just to be with this moment, with this breath, even with the stress, just to connect with it. It felt so much better than to just be lost in this fear and anxiety and sadness or whatever. The other aspect of this, how do we respond to the situations in our life? How do we respond to difficult situations? Paul, in an email that he sent to the group, put it in a number of ways that I really liked. How can we hold the complexities? How can we reach a balance of not being closed emotionally to suffering, but not letting ourselves be overwhelmed? And again, when I read that, it was like the practice, the teachings, the gifts of the Buddha. How can we hold the complexities? By opening to them, by touching them, by sitting with them. And one thing that I realize that happens in this is that I was just tripping last night on this whole thought of transformation, the transformation that happens with this practice. The fact that we can allow this stuff in, but that maybe what we put back out isn't quite the same. That we can let in the World Trade Center, but we don't put that out. That we can let in Katrina, but we don't put that out. That there's this purification process. The Tibetans have a practice that I don't know much about, but I've read about, and I love the idea of it. And this is a bit what I'm talking about. It's a practice called Tonglen. And it's a practice where you breathe in sort of the impurities, the grief, the sadness, the fear, sickness, hunger, whatever. You breathe it in, and then you breathe out compassion, hope, love, life, health, all of this stuff. And again, I'm just talking from a real my understanding is very simple, because my understanding is also this is a very serious and very deep and revered practice. But in a sense, that's what we all do with this practice. If we can sit here and breathe this stuff in and hold it, and then let something else out that isn't as colored and as dark and as difficult, we're purifying and we're transforming. And that's beautiful. And it was just sort of that aspect of the practice I hadn't considered so much. And it's really beautiful. My boyfriend works for a county supervisor in Santa Clara County. And they had their 21st annual dinner for elected gay politicians and their supporters, and it was at the Fairmont Hotel in San Jose. There was maybe 500, 1,000 people. There were a lot of people there, and a lot of elected officials. That there's gay people in positions all over the place, and I was thinking about this whole process of transformation in that, and in a sense, that's what's happening in the gay movement. In a sense. There's a lot of stuff out there that isn't so supportive of us. I remember reading after this last pope died that he was a very mystical man, but one thing he deeply believed in is that the apocalypse is upon us. This is the pope. And one of the signs of it is that gay people are coming into power. That along with abortion and I don't know what else. Those are two of the main things. These are the signs of the apocalypse. So what do we do as homosexuals around this? What I saw last night is, we can take this hate in, but we don't necessarily have to put it back out. We can work and we can build coalitions and we can transform this in some ways. Which to me is a beautiful way to respond appropriately to these kinds of situations. One thing that surprised me last night was they actually recognized a lot of the support we get in auxiliary communities that really help us as gay people consider things like gay marriage, consider things like equal protection under the law. And they had a number of people from labor unions get up there and speak. And there's this black woman who runs this, I don't know if she ran a labor union down in that area. She blew me away. Because the gist of her speech was, we can't talk about equality and be choosy. If we talk about equality, everything's included. And so the fact that now the labor movement and the gay movement are sort of seeing this together, it's like, okay, we're in this together. And she said she was calling people in the labor movement saying, we have to go out and petition for gay marriage. And they're like, why? She goes, we can't be choosy. If we really believe in equal protection and equal rights and equal wage benefits for everybody, we have to go out and work this way. Anyway, the other thing I felt around this is a part of this transformation thing that goes on. It's evolution. It's the hope of the world. It's the hope of the apocalypse won't happen. The fact that we can take some of this ugliness in and put out something that isn't as dark. Oh, I don't feel so anxiety-ridden right now. So, Jack, I don't know what my 3 points are. I just really needed to come out here and riff for a while. I needed to come out here and say I suffer. And it's funny because when you sit up on this seat, at least I put the impression on here is that, I'm supposedly have some skills where I don't suffer so much. Doesn't work that way for me. I think what I would like to do now is open this up for sharing amongst all of us. And I'd like to have sharing around response. Where do we find trouble in responding? Where do we have? Where are the parts that catch us or that are trouble for us in responding? One thing I've always held on to with this practice is that I believe it goes. Somebody asked Suzuki Roshi a number of years, back in the 60s. Sort of why practice? And he said it's really sort of based on how to respond appropriately. And this really comes back to that transformation, that purification thing. Shit goes in, what comes out? I come back to the question: what kind of world do we want to live in, and how do we go about starting to create that world? So anyway. If other people would like to share about their own sense of response, or maybe some of their own difficulties about that, I would greatly appreciate it.
I can't be alone in the last 2 weeks. I've kind of glued in a way that is very, very helpful to me. And there's a part of me that wants to be present to witness what really has happened, to not close my eyes to it, to not separate myself, independently of how painful it is. And in general, I do
The exposure that's come about with this event is pretty dramatic, and I think it's going to have, hopefully there'll be some purification with that too. The exposure to the class system that we have, the exposure to poverty, the exposure to the haves and the have-nots. On national TV for 2 weeks. It doesn't happen. It happened. It happened. And the world saw it. Big, brave, powerful, happy, white, rich, free, and happy America. Yeah. So, may this exposure... Thanks for the story.
Steve?
Yeah, I work as a 6th grade teacher, and I do talk about 9/11, and it was 4 years ago, so this year they were in 2nd grade when it happened. And it was interesting to go back in time and say it was 6 a.m., you were waking up, and all they remembered was their parents being afraid. They really weren't sure what was happening. They just remembered their parents all being afraid, and that was interesting in itself. And my job as a teacher is, well, let's fill in. You're older now, let's look at what happened. And every year I do this, they have one question, which is, why did they do that? And nobody has ever answered that question for them. Why do they hate us? Why did the planes do that? And my Buddhist teaching comes into play about those planes did not come out of nowhere. There's a context for that. But yes, there are reasons people hate America, and this whole event is embedded in a whole social structure. Very complicated, but the planes didn't come out of nowhere. And they were okay with pursuing that. I mean, nobody's answering that question, and I think what happened after 9/11 is Bush hijacked the meaning of that, and that got diverted culturally. We've never really answered why it happened, at least to a generation of little kids. But it is connected to all other events that preceded it. Talk about stress. The Middle East is filled with stress. For years, decades, for centuries. Planes came out of that. I'm not excusing anything, but just to even understand where they came from. There's this tendency not to want to look. Already America's back to driving these big cars. It's like nothing has happened. There's a war that we all feel helpless about. It got hijacked very quickly. What could have been an event that we could have learned something from, gone. The meaning is gone. It became something else. It became a patriotic thing. So I was just really stunned by having a room of little kids ask me why did it happen, and having to deal with that question.
You bring up something again for me, which is, how do we deal with stress? How do we deal with the stress in this country, with the stress of watching this on television? I'm curious. Personally, all of us.
One way to do it is obviously to express your feelings and feel, and that's certainly happening here today. Not oddly enough, but as something called Daily Dharma, I get it. It's just one from my email. I guess a lot of you get it. The quotes are from a book called Feeling Buddha. And the quotes clearly say that Buddha knows all of these things.
But let me tell you, I don't let it go very well sometimes. But I mean, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Let it go.
Oh, fuck you. No, and you remind me again of one thing I love, which is this, I keep coming back to, is the Buddha said, I see you. That's it. I see you. Yeah.
We have two speakers here at the end.
Thanks for...
Man in the red shirt.
This morning, before I came here, on Sunday mornings, I go to a monastery in Brooklyn and meditate, have service. Today there was a homily about forgiveness, which seemed appropriate. But then I was talking with several people who were there. These are all people who are teachers in theological seminaries, denominations that happen to be there. And the subject came up about the coming visitation from Rome is going to be, they're going to be checked for orthodoxy. They all knew the big issue was going to be potentially gay priests in the seminaries. Were they going to stand? They were saying this is a terribly difficult issue. So I felt anger. What's the difficulty? They're wrong.
Yeah, no problem there.
I have trouble identifying in any way with this Catholic institution. How can you even discuss this? And one guy said, well, my loyalty isn't to the Pope, my loyalty is to the people of the Church, and that's me people too, and I have to be here. I said, that's troubling for me. And he looked at me and said, how can we pay taxes in America? Isn't Bush worse than Benedict? And then the discussion continued. Apparently, the colleagues of these monks in Italy have said to them, how can you stay in America? Close down the house, leave that place. And then another woman said, oh yeah, we have this conference, this multi-denominational conference, and my Anglican priest friends in Canada will come into the country. So we can't visit America. One of represents from both. And then another one said, yes, I have some friends, they just moved to Syria. They say they can't live in this country anymore. And I myself teach for job course, which I work for the Department of Labor, and I know that they suit that the government that funds my own teaching use this largely as a source of young soldiers. They hope to get 50,000. Buy students, that'll be students. I'm an arm of the recruitment to send these young men to Iraq. So I guess what I'm saying is when I look at these terrible things, it's me. I can't be extricated from, not in the sense of pain, but I can't be extricated from the reality. It's not out there. It's me. So what can I do? And I guess my understanding of this practice is I have to be there.
Right.
Somehow I have to be a kind of an emptiness in the midst of this horror. Somehow I have to be a kind of an emptiness. Not good, not bad, not peace. Just a beingness there. So that I guess in the vessel of myself, I can be empty. So there's a possibility of something else being poured in. And in being empty, I have to cease to be not my anger, not my response, but the horror itself. Because I can't say, oh, it's not there, it's pushed. My taxes are supporting this. I can't extricate myself from that. I don't know how else to phrase it other than empty within it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but what happens when you don't feel empty?
I have to accept that and live with it. There's a part of me that's been always full of empty.
Right.
That's the practice. It's the final emptiness in there.
Right.
It has to be worked for. That's
Yeah. 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 Thank you.
Hi. I kind of thank you so much for your share, and I find that detaching from my own drama is very helpful, and that's what the practice and the meditation and for me helps a lot. I find that it's interesting when I hear people talk about, I had a neighbor and he had cancer and he died, or I had a neighbor and he had cancer and it's exciting and he's going to live or whatever. I've been through a very significant cancer experience myself, and I just can't get into the drama of it, I mean, it's like the drama's over for me. I actually feel more anxiety and drama over how my dance classes are going, or certainly as much as when I was in the cancer circumstance. And I'm talking about serious. I mean, I don't want to have to throw out my credentials or whatever, but I've been through a lot. And it's so interesting that you can have the same kind of bullshit go through your circuits on something as silly as dance. Whether these people are going to think I'm a good enough dancer versus whether the chemotherapy is going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
So it allows me a lot of opportunity to just kind of like let go of my own drama. And what I'm hearing in your talk and in many of the things that people speak about is like drama detail kind of stuff. A lot of drama detail. It's like, fuck it, Somebody challenged me last night on some amount of money I was getting on something that I was kind of semi-volunteering for. And, they kind of said, well, you're rich enough. You don't really need the money. And I was like, I didn't like that. And then I thought about it for 2 seconds, and I said, he's right. And I released all tension in myself by sending an email back saying, I see your points. You're right. And I'm still excited to do the whole event that I was going to do. And I'm down $3,000 that I would have been, like, big deal.
Right.
It's just interesting. Life is an incredible roller coaster. It goes all over the place. And, whatever one can do to kind of enjoy watching and going on the ride rather than getting, tight about it, I think that's the answer.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. No, and I appreciate a lot of your thoughts too. But you also realize that drama arises sometimes. You were feeling drama about whether people were liking your dance at the same time.
Well, the issue is how to drop it as fast as you possibly
can.
can.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the seeing it. Yeah. No, I thank you for that. Yeah.
I really have to thank Har for the segue. The book, The Feeling Buddha, is an amazing thing, and I really recommend it because it talks about the Sutra of the Four Noble Truths in this completely new way. And I think I've got it down to a 30-second explanation. Basically, the idea is that the first noble truth is afflictions, that things will happen to you in your life. And he lists 20 things that are symptomatic of life, afflictions. The second noble truth is that you will have a reaction to that. It's actually not the cause of those sufferings, but you will have a reaction to some diet.
Right.
And the third noble truth is that can be contained. That reactivity can actually be contained because it arises in your psychophysical organism. It can be contained in the same place.
Right.
And the fourth noble truth, I think this is my little piece, is a statement of where it's contained. Right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood,
Right.
Right effort, right mindfulness. And then the samadhi is the lotus that he sits upon and is firmly on the earth. And that it's about your energy centers, and it's an energetic teaching. It's
Right.
about the fire that comes up in response to suffering. You can contain it here because that's where it originated.
Right. Right. This is all transformation. Everybody here is basically talking about this transformation. Which happens to be the sort of the new way my new lens for looking at this week or whatever. But yeah, it's just you sort of bring it in, and you too. You're talking. So you say you don't necessarily get caught up in the story of it, but you open up to it all and enjoy the ride as you're going on, and sort of being empty with it. So it can all come in, but it's like there's nobody here, so it's not going to attach any place. There's just a bit of a purification that goes on with all that. I tend towards the dramatic, but I also want to respond that to be careful about saying that things are just stories sometimes, because I would not go to New Orleans and say, to these people that lost everything, this is just a story. Don't be dramatic about this. Things happen that have a drama sometimes. The loss of my neighbor is a big deal for me. There's a serious hole. At the same time, and all of this just happens. There's also a real beauty amongst all of this. I mean, I talked a little bit about, the beauty of seeing what America's like on television right now. There's a power to that. There is a tremendous beauty around my friend passing away. Unbelievable beauty around it, just in terms of the love, connection. The other thing I realized around this whole occurrence with my neighbor is that we all were hugging each other, and I never go out and hug my neighbors. And we all were hugging each other all week long, and it was like, this is cool. I like this. Just to be able to respond to people like this for a while, to touch them, to care for them, and to feel that really strong. So, look at somebody else. Oh, did you talk, Clint?
Not here.
Oh, please. Please.
I'm just a real jumble of emotions about what's been going on. And as people probably are very bored hearing my expression of anger, so I'm but I'm the man in the red shirt, because I don't know your name. A lot of what you said really resonated. And I know my first reaction when Katrina was first hitting the South, Mississippi and New Orleans, before the images started coming in, the stories started coming in, and I'm not really proud of this reaction, I'm just saying this is what it was. I was just saying, okay, well, the red states are getting slammed. Let's see the fundamentals pray to Jesus and revert the hurricane. And again, I'm not proud of that reaction. And in fact, I was starting getting into this. I kind of shot it with Freud. Enjoying the misery of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I stepped aside. I just thought, do I really want to be this person? Do I really want to continue to be this person? Because I've been this person for so long, since all of a sudden Bush is done. And it scared me. It scared me because I felt kind of like if I continue down this path I've been going for so long, that I'm going to be an emotionally stunted person full of rage and bleeding over people's misery. The enemy and my side, which is totally so against what this whole thing is all about. I worked on the Environmental Protection Agency, and I volunteered to go. They're going to have a party. We'll go down to Louisiana, Mississippi, to do environmental relief work. So I mean, I just thought I volunteered to go, and it's kind of like prepare for that. It's like going to a third world country, getting the tetanus shots and the typhoid shots and the titus shots. I mean, it's shocking to think, going to another part of the country, this country, and yet, the preparation is as if I were going to some part of Africa or something. And I'm not 100% sure if I still will go. I mean, whether they'll call me up. But I have a pretty strong feeling that I will be called up. And part of me really wants to do this. I want to just get in there, just interact with people, meet and humanize. And part of me is just because I'm going to the heart of enemy country. I'm going to the heart of the country of people whose values and actions are so counter to my values and my actions, and who have created a country that I have such anger and despair about, because these people in these areas and their values have created this country. And I just really need to go down there and just interact with these people, make them human again, instead of like these demons that I carry in my head. And the images on TV and the internet have gone a long way towards that too. I'm nervous about being in
Best of luck down there.
Yeah. What you said rang really true. This whole concept of when you're under a lot of pressure, you can choose to sit or not, and it's amazing. We all do it occasionally or frequently, hopefully, and we know it's there, we know it works, we know it's helpful, and yet, I've been spending this whole week, or last 2 weeks, walking back and forth in the living room right in front of my Buddha that's sitting there, doing this, doing that, doing the other thing, go have a beer with friends, but not sitting, and just getting more and more stressed out. And it's curious that we have the tools and they're sitting right in front of us, and we don't take them sometimes.
Any idea why?
I think it's just we're programmed to react in a usual human way from birth, unless you were born a Buddhist.
Right. It goes a bit against the grain of the flow of what we live in. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I really respect what you're saying, and that it is the answer for me as well. My deal has been lately, the stress has been involving interpersonal relationships and things that are very important to me. I don't really get into a lot of details, but I just want to say that it's prompted me. When the shit hits the fan, I'll sit. But it has to be, sometimes it has to get to a level because I'm not consistent with it either. But when I do that, I was meditating the other night, and my boyfriend was in the other room, and I just started laughing a lot. I mean, just like from my gut, and I just kept on laughing, and he goes, "Why are you laughing? You're supposed to be meditating." And I was like, "I know, isn't that a trip?" I said, I couldn't stop laughing, and I was crying too because sometimes I've gotten deep enough in meditation where I hit bedrock and it's joy. It's just like it's like this is, and it feels something like, if I had to put words to it, like this is life is like a big opportunity. Just a big opportunity, and I don't have to. I can make it whatever I want. I can make out of whatever it is. The strongest people that I most admire in my life are the ones that I can see that walk through everything in their life, and they have, for the most part, they're able to maintain a sense of joy, appreciation for the process, for the experience. And I guess that's been alluded to by saying detachment. But that just sounds so cold to me. It's a way. It's like being involved, but not engulfed.
Yeah.
And when I watch people go through deaths and losses and financial hardships, and I see this because I'm in a 12-step program, so I get to watch a lot of people's processes.
Right.
And it's amazing that people can go through that and like smile and say, "I'm so glad that I'm sober," or "I'm so glad that I'm alive today to make these amends," or whatever it might be. And that's what the power of meditation does, because I can go back to those spaces and remember that the underlying bedrock that I've experienced is always joy, and that I can take that with me everywhere and walk through my process without becoming overly engulfed by it.
Yeah.
Do you want one more comment?
Sure, please. Howard.
Well, I want to thank you for your meltdown this morning and your openness to that energy. I've always learned it takes more to keep it in than to let it out. Great tears is a way of opening up, healing energy for you, and then for sharing it with us from a place as teacher. I just want to honor your vulnerability and transparency for us. In shamanic traditions, when someone in the tribe is sick, they come for healing. did you stop dancing? When did you stop enjoying nature? And when did you stop welcoming silence into your life? I see those as a source for illness or disease or discomfort.
Yeah.
Been a great 4 questions for me.
It's beautiful. It plays right off of Edmund really nice too. I like ending the day on these notes. The morning. It's very sweet.
Thank you. We'll have announcements.
I'm Steve, and I'm your host for today, so welcome, especially if you're new today, welcome. If you are a newcomer, could you raise your hand and maybe introduce yourself again?
I guess I introduced myself.
Anybody else here for the first time? Welcome. And your name?
I'm Adam.
Great. Welcome. Please join us. We have tea and refreshments.
I think we have one more.
I'm sorry.
Forrest.
Welcome. We have tea and refreshments out there. We have conversation as soon as we finish it here. There's a newsletter sign up. There's an email newsletter, a hard copy newsletter if you'd like to keep in touch with us. If you use a teacup, please wash it when you're done. There's a Dharma bowl. Dharma is the word for generosity, and your contributions are welcome to support us. Recommended $5 to $8, more if, less if. Sometimes people get together for lunch afterwards around 12:30. Is that it? Welcome.
Yeah, let me rise later on if you could put your questions away. Hi.
Yes. The annual retreat of GBF will be happening next weekend from Friday 16th to Sunday 18th. We are still accepting registration, though after this weekend, we pretty much have to fix the number of people who will be attending because the facility needs to know for how many people they will prepare a meal. So if you're interested in coming to retreat, please let me know or give me or send me your registration form and check as soon as possible. Theme of the retreat is Your Buddha, based on the teaching of the Buddhist Lotus Sutra, and that would be very, very exciting. So I hope you will be able to join us.
Okay.
Just a couple of quick points. We do have a Yahoo group, Gay Buddhist. Yahoo.gaybuddhist. I encourage members who are kind of seem to be involved in this community to consider joining that group because a lot of behind the scenes information is passed through there. To Winston Leyland, a long-time member, and a guy who owned the publishing company, Leyland Publications, put out Queer Dharma 2. Anyway, his health is poor, and he's feeling isolated. He would really appreciate contact in the form of a phone call. I don't have his number, but I did put out a post in the Yahoo group with his number. If anybody's interested, I can get that information to them or you can check out the Yahoo. George.
Yes, a reminder that our talks are available on the internet at the GBF website, gaybuddhist.org.
Shall we stand in a circle, hold hands, and Bill, you have a merit?
It's really also sweet to see us all connected like this. And to me, the offering of a merit is really about the connection that we do share, not only with each other, but with all beings. So may this practice that we share here, may our exploration of our suffering, may our transformation of what we do in these difficult times and the energy we put out, may our efforts and our work around this, may it be a benefit for all beings. May we share it gladly and freely. And may we just remember that we all want to be happy. We all want to be free, as all beings do. May all beings be happy.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.